everybody, and thank you for being with us at this webinar on the topic Aftermath of COVID-19 on Disability, Diversity and Inclusion. In today's times, pandemic times, when we all are suffering from this unforeseen circumstances, everybody is hit across very badly. And it's very unfortunate that during these times, while a normal person is hit from all these issues of the pandemic, our friends and our dear friends and colleagues and our neighbors, even in many a times, people with different abilities are hit the most. So this is a very, very testing phase for all of us, and we need to really come out it strongly. But at this same time, I think we need to really care and support for the PWDs which are there in this whole process impacted very badly. So it's a very important topic for discussion, which will be led by Mr. Chandramouli with the different panelists we have today. And I'm here just to introduce the topic and to the entire audience that what this topic can play a major role for the lives of so many people. I've been closely watching Sarthak for the last 12 years, being an advisory board member in various capacities. And I've seen that the more we support them, the more we take care of PWDs, the much stronger they emerge out. Our 20 centers in the country have been doing a great job, and we have facilitated almost 18,000 people who have been skilled and trained and employed in different parts of society, especially in the corporates. And our experience says almost 55% have gone into the IT sector and 25% into the hospitality. So in this pandemic, now while they were employed, many of them have lost jobs. Many of them have been really impacted because they were not able to go physically to the places, to the stores, retail stores, coffee shops, the other places where they were working. So this has been very difficult, and that is why we always have felt that their chances of getting impacted during the pandemic times is very, very high, because these people are unable to ensure physical distancing. So the basic reason is that you have people who have got disability from their eyes, who have less vision or no vision. They cannot ensure good, safe distancing. They face challenges to access. There are lots of barriers in access for the obtain, and they are not able to get the right information. Some of them would be hearing impaired, some of them are visually impaired. So getting the right information for them is a major chance. And they really miss that information out. So for them, it becomes very difficult, and they can be exposed to violence and a lot of harassment at many places. So the representation of PWDs to get the right information is very, very difficult. All the corporates, we need to ensure that they use their OSH methods to ensure good mental support for them. They are recognized for work in the organizations, and the working arrangements need to be made accessible for them and inclusive in nature. Then only these PWDs could survive well. And we are very sure when the economic parameters come across, there will be a lot of pressure on these companies to really have these people employed and make their continuity. But while they are in the pandemic, I think we need to ensure that they undergo right kind of training and orientation so that they remain active, they remain efficient, they remain working. So today we should discuss that what exactly would be the possibilities during the pandemic, which is still continuing, and what exactly they would be chances of being there placed well while they are in the companies when they restart work. So in nutshell, I would say that during the lockdown and other containment measures, we need to ensure protection from COVID-19 through disability inclusive occupational safety and health measures. So each company, each organization need to ensure that their OSH methods are implemented in full to these people. That is number one. Number two, we should ensure accessible and inclusive working conditions in all relevant working arrangements. So while they are walking along the path, while they are getting seated in the company, while they are getting seated into in a place of work or their own work, they need to ensure that there is a good access and a good working conditions so that they are safe from the pandemic challenges. We need to provide social protection. We have seen many situations where people have asked for donations, asked for monies, and we should be ready to immediately give them assistance through either cash transfers. We have arranged food for them many times, keep on giving them support in kind, and also adapted delivery mechanisms so that they can receive it well. So we need to possibly, some of them might have to use digital transmissions or digital media to get their things. And we need to maintain and develop support services during the lockdown and during the entire health crisis. So if they are moving in a vehicle or if there is a safe vehicle provided them to movement, I think we need to continue those services. And there has to be a lot of peer related work development schemes which can help support these PWs in their work domains. So that is very, very, very important as far as during the lockdown and containment is concerned. In the socio-economic domain, I think we need to keep on continuously consulting them and having them participated in a lot of socio-economic programs. We need to ensure that the government schemes reach out to them. We need to ensure they fill up the forms wherever needed, and we should ensure a suitable participation by them in all these schemes. And we also need to ensure that both the men and women in the PWDs are really accounted for, and they have set good basis for assessments, rapid assessments and situation assessments for them. This is very important. Similarly, while we are lucky enough, the able persons are lucky enough to be a part of the mainstream, but we should ensure that these PWDs also become a part of the mainstream and participate with us and get the same support as what we are getting as mainstream people. So somewhere we have to also talk to the financial institutions. We have to ensure that separate mechanisms for support are made through banking institutions or financial institutions, and especially for PWDs, they should have some kind of arrangements to be dispersed or to be given to them. Similarly, we should ensure that programs do run for them, and all employment initiatives, like we used to have employment seminars, or we cannot do seminars now, but webinars should be there to do a kind of a roundtable or other programs to ensure that they get the full attention and they get the equal opportunities. So in terms of the recovery, when we start getting into the recovery mode, maybe a few months down the line, we need to ensure that the transition for them into a normal mode, from the pandemic mode, is done in a very, very smooth manner. And what we do it for normal people, we should be including the disabled people also in those efforts. We should ensure that while the things are changing, I've seen myself government offices where the entire setup is changed for working for people, like they have a glass shield, they have very others, the furniture is spread out. So similarly, we should make available new forms of work for these people as well, while they are working in their own domains, in the IT side or in the hospitality side or in the restaurants where they are here. So similarly, we should ensure adequate social protection and physical protection for these people so that they feel comfortable while they are working into their respective offices and respective domains. Definitely, economic empowerment is a must. We don't know the kind of rate of growth which has been envisaged for this country and globally, that how much time we will take to recover ourselves from a normal economic growth. People target about 2025, 2026, that will reach to a percentage of 9.25% of GDP or 9% of GDP. So similarly, this all impact has gone to these levels very much. There have been global examples of support being given by countries like Nigeria, Bangladesh. Many other European countries have given them a lot of support. ILO has also come out with their own prescriptions for these. So I think we in India also need to follow something which is very relevant for them. Similarly, there will be a lot of training needs which will come up, and a lot of standards would have to be changed when they recover back from the aftermath of this COVID. So I think we need to really work hard, and a lot of these agendas which have been taken across for moving forward in terms of the rehabilitation and employment programs for them, I think we should debate in today's program about what all best support we can give to these people. We can really take them as part of the mainstream and ensure that they are very much part of what we are doing or what everybody is doing. I think that is very important for us. So in today's seminar with panelists, which will be moderated by Mr. N.V. Chandramouli, he is an advisory board member for Sarthak as well. High performance, just to give an introduction of Mr. Chandramouli, he has been a high performance global operations and supply chain leader who applies extensive cross-functional experience to find innovative ways to solve problems, enterprise problems. So I think Mr. Chandramouli should include in his own agenda in terms of how best to logistically support the people with disabilities and how to cope up various companies to really service them as well after the pandemic is over. And he has been responsible and he has been successful in devising logical strategies and solutions, building the metrics needed to ensure superior customer satisfaction. He has created business differentiators to maximize revenue and market leadership. He has collaborated with stakeholders, including the C-suites, working as business partner and leader to enhance the bottom line. A persistent high achiever with a history of improving processes while enhancing product availability. So I'm sure with all these adjectives behind him, I think he would add up the PWDs also into his domain and make his inspiring leadership also available with his own talent and with the talent of others being used to make it much more sustainable and much more formidable for the people with different abilities. So from Sarthak and from all the support from the US side, I would like to welcome Mr. Chandramouli and request him to take the conversation forward and come out with some meaningful conclusions so that we can implement and have with partners to be implemented over a period of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandeep ji, for that kind introduction. And first of all, I would like to welcome all my erudite panelists to this particular discussion. And as Sandeep ji was pointing out, that it's really a black swan moment for the entire world, in the sense that earlier we used to have people who are able-bodied and now those who are differently abled. But today, all of us are on the same plane. You know, if everybody has to work from home, so whether it's you know, an abled or a differently abled, we are all working from home, and that's the new normal for us. So therefore, we are also today going to be considering a very important part of, you know, what is you know, in the human race being discussed today, and that is the debate on inclusivity. Inclusivity has been discussed at political levels, it has been discussed at various other levels, and today we'll be discussing this, you know, concept of inclusivity from the point of view of the PWDs, or the differently abled. It gives me great pleasure to actually welcome all my panelists today, who will be, you know, speaking on different aspects and giving you different perspectives on the inclusivity debate. So I first start with, you know, Pragnya Desai, MD Accenture India. She brings with her over 20 years of IT experience and driving complex technology programs. She is responsible for telecommunications, media, and high-tech industry technology business in UKI, and she is a certified master technology architect and telecommunications domain expert. She is passionate about people in technology and helping them carve their careers with all their with their abilities. She will be speaking on the best practices that are adopted by Accenture with reference to COVID, pre and post COVID, and for making it an inclusive, accessible, and empowered workplace for people with disability. It gives me again great pleasure to welcome Sarbani Mukher Chakravarti, Director CII. Sarbani presently leads the development initiatives, vertical and confederation of Indian industry, and is the convener of the India Business and Disability Network. Having been working for over a decade in different areas in CII, with a focus on engaging and advocating for industry action towards inclusion and development, which includes rural development, women empowerment, inclusion of persons with disabilities, and enabling impactful CSR programs. Also holds the responsibility for CII Foundation governance and compliance, and leads the disaster relief and rehabilitation initiatives of the foundation. Prior to CII, she had undergone a 3-year young professional fellowship program under the Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India. She has done post-graduation in rural management from the FMS, Indian Institute of Rural Management, and is a gold medalist and is an honors graduate from the Calcutta University. So Sarbani Mukherjee will be talking about CII initiatives for building an inclusive ecosystem for the PWDs. So I welcome Sarbani on to this particular panel. Our next panelist is Sujashri Kurapati, Managing Director, DQ Software Private Limited. I have been associated with the accessibility and DQ for over 12 years now. Digital accessibility is so fascinating to me as this profession gives a lot of contentment at the end of every day. In the role of managing director, I strategize, drive, and lead the teams at DQ India. At DQ, I had different hats, and it has been fun playing the roles of a developer, consultant, trainer, and product owner. Before DQ, I worked for Microsoft India and NCR corporations. I love to be an accessibility evangelist and contribute to the community to the extent I could. Welcome, Sujashri. She will be speaking on the accessibility segment for disability and inclusivity. Our next panelist is Mr. R. Hari, former GM HR Lemon Tree. R. Hari draws on over 30 years of functional experience in hospitality sector with a proven track record in HR strategy, organizational change, business vision, people capability. His last stint was between December '06 to May 20, where he headed or co-headed the human resource functions for Lemon Tree Hotels. In a stint of over 13 and a half years with Lemon Tree, he had spent 10 years focusing on the company's articulated vision in space, diversity, and inclusion by leading, mentoring, inspiring, and guiding all stakeholders. He was a national awardee in 2016, in 2018 for inclusion initiatives, holds a master's degree in human resource, master's in humanities, and a degree in law. Welcome, Mr. Hari, to this particular panel. So he will be speaking about the COVID impact on hiring, especially the pre and the post COVID, and what are the kind of revival packages that will be there. Mohammad Asif Iqbal, Associate Director of PwC India. He has more than 10 years of experience in human capital consulting and eGov consulting. He is currently serving as a board member, National HRDN Network Kolkata chapter, is a president of NGO Welfare Society for the Blind, member of CII CSR HR Committee, member of High Level Advisory Committee for Universal Access Department of Universal Access, Department of Electronics and IT, Government of India. He is a regular speaker on technology integrated inclusion, diversity, and inclusion at NASSCOM, CII, ASSOCHAM, SHRM, NHRDN. He has authored articles on initiating inclusion journey by organizations, which was published in leading HR journals and HR magazines in India. And he will be speaking about the role of technology in integrating inclusion. So once again, I warmly welcome each of the participants, and I will also clarify as to how we will go with this discussion. We will have a sequence of discussions, which will be as follows. We will first have Pradnya Desai speaking on the best practices adopted pre and post COVID at Accenture. The second speaker will be Sadbani Chakravarti. She will be speaking about the CII initiatives for building an inclusive ecosystem. The third speaker will be Sudashri Kurapati. She will be speaking about accessibility segment for disability inclusivity. The fourth speaker will be Mr. R. Hari, how COVID is affecting the hiring segment of PWDs and what are the revival packages. And then we will have, the fifth speaker, that's Mohammad Asif Iqbal. What is the role of technology in integrating inclusion, right? And we will, if we have time, we will also consider a common question, which is what is the job market scenario for PWDs in your company during lockdown, and have you witnessed any positive trends? So this will be the order in which the speakers will start. We will have 60 minutes. So basically, I would request each of the panelists to speak for about 9 to 10 minutes and probably sum up with 1 minute. And then subsequent to that, we will have a set of questions from the audience, which will be answered by the various panelists. Yeah. Having set the agenda in the following way, I now call upon Pragya Desai, MD Accenture India, to give her perspective on the best practices adopted pre and post COVID for making an inclusive and accessible, empowered workplace. Please welcome Pragya Desai.
Hello, everyone. Hi, good afternoon. I'm audible, sir?
Very, very much audible. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you first for having me here. And in interest of time, I will like to spend most of my time talking about the things that we do at Accenture and how we have embraced the new normal now. So to begin with, Accenture commitment towards a disability and the people with disability starts right from the top. As an organization, we have signed a charter with the International Labour Organization and agreed to nurture our disability network. We've also associated with the CII India team here in India, and we partner with them to actually drive and define our detailed execution plan for the same charter. Our CEO, Julie Sweet, has gone public and said that she acknowledges the disability network contribution to bring in diverse mindset and essentially believes that that's something that enables and strengthens our diversity portfolio and innovation portfolio. All of this is backed with our research, which is published in the market, which goes by the title of Getting to Equal, and we emphasize on every aspect of diversity and ensure that our entire ecosystem is extremely inclusive towards that. Our workplaces, our people, our talent plan, our strategies, and everything that goes hand in hand for running our business keeps diversity at the heart of it. That's how we have been organized as an organization. Our commitment towards disability at large has not changed pre or post pandemic. It has been consistent, and our commitment comes from from almost a decade long experience within Accenture and the focus that we had for all along driving various inclusion agendas. Disability, we run a charter for the same under the initiative of People with Disability Program, and it is part of our network for of our entire inclusion and diversity initiative for nearly almost a decade now, and we have been really growing with each passing year. Being a talent-driven company, we believe that every talent that brings its own diverse abilities, and it's every person, every individual brings a lot of difference in opinions, in innovation, in approach, in delivery, and that is something that we consolidate at heart. And that I think is something that we need to tap, nurture, sustain, retain, and even at sometimes even put that additional effort of making them inclusive and cohesive for the individual to survive and thrive. So it's not only about sustenance. So let me just get to the detail of what I'm trying to say. At large, we are committed as an organization to thrive disability and thrive people with disability within the organizations and giving them a level playing field. For Accenture, inclusion is not just a good to do agenda. We believe strongly that it's a business imperative. And to support that, we had run an exhaustive survey, research, and worked with our strategy and research team to actually figure out the impact of how much diversity positively impacts both the health of the talent pool as well as the partnership that we eventually achieve as part of our business partnerships with our client and the complete end customers. So they are part of our organization, they are part of the society, and we believe that making it absolutely seamless for anybody to move in, move out, irrespective of the abilities and the physical challenges that they bring is something that is an imperative for us. Our workforce does not differentiate predominantly with any of our specific abilities. Having said that, I would also like to emphasize that reality of the PWD talent market is very different. And we realized this firsthand when we started actually focusing to ensure that we have a dedicated recruitment pipeline, we have a sustenance pipeline, we have a retention pipeline, an acquisition pipeline for people and talent with disabilities. And we realized that the differences in terms of the available resources for our people with disability are very, there's a stark difference between what advantages they have. Talking about the economic disadvantages, they are almost sitting on a double-edged sword, because they have to catch up not only with the existing knowledges and technologies to cope up with the knowledge education system, but also learn now the new digital technologies. We embrace the policies that were recently launched, the National Education Policy 2020, which says that every individual has an equal right to education. I think we lapped it up, and we said that why not just apply it specifically to the disability community and ensure that they have an equal advantage, not just to basic education, but for the education that is a need for survival today in the digital economy. What are the things that they need to know? They need to be computer savvy, they need to be probably technology savvy, and they need to learn technologies that are enabled and accessible to people with disabilities. Talking about accessibility, this was the next step that we picked up. We said that if we have to talk about making PWD as part of our core team, we have to ensure that entire ecosystem, which begins with our workplaces. Today, in today's time, all of that matters lesser, but we bore the fruit of this, For example, our entire offices are accessible. We went about looking at technology tools, the softwares that are required for different kind of disabilities, be it mobility, be it even people with visual impairments and other things. We ensure that we are covering that part by ensuring that we are able to give them all the methods that can make them accessible, and how can they improve their accessibility to that. That actually helped us to acquire people, put them into mainstream delivery work, into our technology work. The challenge then grew further, once we got them onboarded, we made the systems supportive and all that. We then realized that eventually a lot of them drift towards, non-front-ending roles, non-technical roles, get to the back end and sort of, just try and cope up with surviving. And we didn't want that to happen. And that's where we again applied our abilities to build a framework that will help them nurture the skills. They have a learning platform beyond the time that they join us. It doesn't end there. Once they are with us, we ensure that they have a learning framework, a path to education that constantly builds their skill and keeps them up, at par with the rest of the team members. So special investments have been done that. We also went about ensuring that they are covered for their basic physical, medical facilities, so they are not worried about taking care of coping up through financials and other areas. Beyond that came about how do we actually improve their confidence, and that's where we started driving a lot of technical, a lot of trainings which could improve their leadership presence, executive presence, and their abilities to interact with the client as well as the wider organization, and those kind of trainings were done. As part of this pandemic, we launched our global platform for persons with disabilities to raise queries and make them more adept to, learning working in the new normal. So they had a dedicated line to work, integrate. We also used our own technology platforms using artificial intelligence to build a collaboration platform that could enable them and help them actually take advantage. In fact, I would think that the pandemic brought them at really at par, because like you said, sir, in the beginning, everybody is at home, everybody is this, but at home, some people may need some additional tools so that they can seamlessly access. A computer may not be enough for every person. So we ensure that they got access to those specific softwares or even support peripheral tools that could help them actually work effortlessly, just the way they could do it earlier within our office premises. After that, the effort now that we are saying is doing this within Accenture is not sufficient. We are talking about, we want to acquire the talent, especially with people who bring these diverse abilities. So we have partnered with external institutes, organizations such as yours, who works with people and actually helps them actually build this particular, skill and technology effortlessly. So that has been the that's something that I would also emphasize, that we partner with a lot of NGOs to drive and build that skills. And I think that entire ecosystem is what works hand in hand and strengthens our ability to reinforce that we are here to support and be a partner of choice for people with specialized technical abilities. So that's a gist of what we do at Accenture.
Thank you, Pragya, for your really enlightening, perspective. So now I would like to call upon Sarbani Chakravarti to give her perspective on the CII initiatives. Welcome, Sarbani.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chandramouli. I hope everyone can see and hear me clearly. And wonderful to hear from Pradna, the amazing work that Accenture has been doing. It's really something worth knowing and sharing. So very good afternoon to everyone. And I would like to begin by first thanking Sarthak for organizing this webinar on this very important topic, which is especially relevant at such critical times. Also, it is a pleasure to be amongst some of the very experienced co-panelists who are true champions in terms of disability ecosystem. What I would do is I'd break my deliberation into two parts. I would like to first introduce CII's work in the space of disability through the India Business Disability Network, what IBDN is all about. Second part, I would come to what some of the individual companies, member companies within CII have been working on when it comes to addressing this issue of disability during such unprecedented times. So to briefly introduce IBDN, it is a national business and disability network which was set up by CII to serve as a platform to encourage, enable, and empower industry on workplace inclusion. I must share here that this network started off as a conversation that I had with companies 2 years back, and especially those who are not really the champions, who are not really employing persons with disabilities. The companies were no more shying away from discussing or giving excuses as to why they aren't looking at this space, and they were no more asking about why they should look at inclusion. Instead, what we saw that the needle has somewhere moved from why to how we can become more inclusive. So the narrative somewhere had changed over the past 10-12 years. And we realized that the best persons to answer this question of how we can do it through their peers and competitors. And a platform like IBDN could help in further facilitating these cross-learnings. So IBDN was formed as a platform for cross-learnings between companies, a platform to facilitate inclusion in companies who seek help, to help member companies identify and connect with partners and service providers who can provide the solutions, a platform for creating and disseminating knowledge and building capabilities of diversity leaders in companies, and advocating for inclusion commitment at the board level. Also, very importantly, IBDN now serves as a voice for the industry on policy advocacy issues with the government. So in a period of just over a year, what we are seeing is companies whomever we approached and spoke with, they all have joined this movement now. And we have a small number, though it's 80 companies, but it's a cohort of 80 committed companies, organizations. And I'm happy to say some of them here, like Accenture, who are our founding members. Asif is here. Sarthak is now an expert member of IBDN. So coming to the current situation of COVID-19, the impact on industry has been immense. It goes without saying. And of course, it has impacted the employees. What we did was that shortly after the government announced the COVID-19 situation and the subsequent lockdown, we convened a meeting of IBDN members, these companies, these 80 companies who largely engage and employ persons with disabilities, to understand what are the concerns, issues, and also exchange the solution ideas. So some of the key concerns were around the piece of safety, as PWD employees were considered to be especially vulnerable. Concerns were around how to mitigate anxiety issues, how companies need to respond to the new situation and effectively engage employees with disabilities, given that most companies were starting the work from home operations. The second set of concerns were how companies can support the disabled community at large, those who are specially marginalized, and also issues of helping the persons with disabilities who are living without assistance, ensuring that they get their daily essentials during the lockdown situation. Now, given these issues and situation that we saw, what we witnessed next was the power of collaboration. So, for example, the Sector Skill Council for Persons with Disability, SCPWD, they immediately offered to partner with us to establish a free counseling support to persons with disabilities to help them mitigate the anxiety issues during this crisis. And we immediately started the service, and happy to share that within a set of 2 to 3 days, we received over 200 calls from PWD employees across companies in the form of audio and video. One of our member companies, Wipro, they came forward and in partnership with an expert organization, Diversity and Equal Opportunity Center, they volunteered to develop a set of guidelines for employers across the industry to look at the piece of inclusion during such times. So it is like a set of 12-point guideline document, which primarily conveyed the message that how COVID-19 policies by employers need to be PWD inclusive and to ensure that employees with disabilities are not discriminated against in any way. And it also suggested measures for safety and protection of PWD employees. So I'm happy to see that my earlier co-panelist as well as Mr. Shubrato, from Vodafone, they all spoke about these guidelines which are required by industry. So in a way, we have prepared those guidelines and we have been promoting it. We would be more than happy to share with all of you here as well, so that you can take it up also with your other partner organizations. We also advocated with the e-commerce and delivery companies for priority deliveries. We knew that the daily essentials and grocery was very, very critical, especially for this community. What we saw was that immediately the CEO of Big Basket, they responded. They said that, yes, they emailed us that they are going to roll out priority deliveries for the old and also those with disabilities. Similarly, IBDN member, the Future Group, they have they have lots of popular retail chains like Big Bazaar, and they informed us that they are going to roll out priority delivery services for PWDs across India. One of our members here, Asif, he actually communicated to them that, you know, you need to revamp your delivery app as well. The apps were not really, friendly for the disabled community. So they made it accessible as well. So somehow what we saw was that this proved, it provided this became an opportunity, and it gave a traction to certain things which were like lagging somewhere behind. So the point is that two things happened here. The realization that such situations actually catalyzed some great partnerships and collaborations happened. And we also realized that advocacy works. We simply were the catalysts here. Secondly, the fact that while COVID has brought the economy to our knees, that goes without saying, and we have gone back by decades. But it has also pushed us forward by 10 years, especially in terms of technology. And given that technology accessibility now has taken a front seat, in the last few months, a few accessibility experts from IBDN network volunteered to do sessions to educate companies on the accessibility software and tools that may be imperative for the PWD employees now. And we received amazing responses, and very many organizations actively participated. So earlier, while we had to really promote and, convince them why it is important, this time what we saw was the opposite, that they were demanding all these programs, these webinars, these sessions. Coming to the second part of the deliberation, I would like to quickly share how some of the companies who are not really in the panel, but I think it's good to share their initiatives. It may help, it may give some ideas here as well. What we did was we did a small scan of few companies and what they have been doing. What we observed was that over the past few months, as companies are settling into the work from home operational model, there is a shift in discussion. Many employees with disabilities are calling this situation a great leveler, as everyone is now feeling included, where this situation has leveled the playing field between PWDs and non-PWDs. But of course, this is like more relevant to organizations who are way ahead in the curve, and they have inclusive practices already, and they have evolved procurement policies in place from the very beginning. So for example, the concept of remote working was already in place, especially with IT companies. who are one of the biggest employers for PWD community, as earlier Mr. Subrata has also mentioned. And a lot of advocacy was happening internally on providing work from home options, especially for PWDs. So this situation actually provided them the opportunity to accelerate this transition, and also an opportunity for developing and adopting inclusive technologies. Also, to a certain extent, the discussion has shifted from reasonable accommodation, which is around physical accessibility perspective, to the digital accessibility piece. So this is another change that we are seeing in the conversation that we are having. So for example, TCS, they have already started adoption of work from home concept on a large scale. So now they are prioritizing creation of digital access for remote working. They are mostly now procuring and using apps and softwares which are accessible. For example, all the team meetings, as well as external meetings, they have started using MS Teams, Skype, which is happening with many more IT companies, I must say. Similarly,
I hate to intervene, but I think if you can kindly conclude, please.
Yes, absolutely. So there are similar kind of interventions we are seeing across many companies, Adobe, Capgemini. What I would like to leave you with is that while a lot of things are happening, there are two critical issues that we need to look at and which we need to all deliberate on. One is the employment perspective, the hiring. So while already companies who have employed, they are kind of updating themselves, the issue that we are going to face is the hiring and the employment piece. Industry in general is going through a tough time, and there seems to be a hiring freeze, plus the usual job fairs that would facilitate a lot of hiring has to be discontinued due to the COVID regulation. So we need to find solutions on these. And we are discussing with Sarthak whether virtual job fairs can be an option or not. But a greater advocacy now needs to be done with companies to ensure that, that they carry on this and this hiring freeze is somewhere lifted now. So that's from my end. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarbani. I think it was a wonderful perspective that you shared with us. Can I now call upon Sujashri Kurapati to speak on accessibility segment for disability?
Thank you, Mr. Chandramouli. Yeah, thank you so much, Chandramouli, for the invite. And first of all, am I audible?
Audible, yeah.
Yes, yeah, thank you. So first of all, thanks to Sarthak for inviting me, and I'm very glad to be here today. So for people who do not know about DQ, so DQ we enable the technologies, any digital applications accessible for persons with disabilities, including all variety of applications like mobile, desktop, web, all sort of things. For that matter, any digital platform, right? So that's what we have been doing for 2 decades now, so as everyone is saying, I don't think I need to explain more, right? Everyone with disabilities and without disabilities, like everyone is experiencing the COVID situation right now. And, we are all witnessing the increased demand for digital channels and the digitization, right? So that definitely, improves the, requirement for digital accessibility as well. So when I say digital accessibility, if anyone doesn't know, what I mean to say is taking digital properties like external, internal, websites, applications, starting from, HR to onboarding applications to the time tracking, anything that can, anything that is digital to be accessible for persons with disabilities. Now, if you take the current situation, be it entertainment, be it e-commerce, education, retail, any segment if you take, so we have very high dependency on these online channels. Even people without disabilities, right? We are highly dependent on online services, starting from groceries to entertainment. You can take, there are a number of examples, and I don't need to explain more about it, right? So given this situation, actually we thought of talking to people directly, and we did a survey at DQ, and people from education and accessibility participated in that survey, and we heard that 63% of employees with disabilities are having, they said that they have some or greater difficulty in performing their jobs effectively. And then at least more than 1/3 of participants said that they have increased level of difficulty in accessing online services, like for example chatbots or telecommunication, or you can take anything that will help with interacting with other businesses, right? So they have difficulty in taking up those services as well. So all this is saying just one thing. So it became a basic need now. So but now consider the persons with disabilities. It's more than a human right now. It's more than a compliance factor now. I think it's a basic need for surviving. And in this time period of no touch, no physical help, one can imagine how difficult it is for a person with a disability to survive in this tough period. I think definitely I am personally wishing that every individual, every organization will be more empathetic towards people with disabilities now, knowing and experiencing this difficult COVID time, right? And then businesses may say that, okay, we work for profit, right? Why do I have to make my products accessible to just for the certain segment of people? Yes, valid reason, but we do have valid explanation as well for that. By making products accessible, you as an organization will be bringing more than 19% of global population as your customers, as so it just the statistics, right? But it's I personally feel that it's more than 19%, because some people do not even reveal their disability, and it doesn't end there. It's not just 19% of the population, right? It includes the extended families of those persons with disabilities as well, who are looking for accessible solutions in this digital era, right? And then I wanted to say another big factor as well, right? Do you know the purchasing power of this market segment? Like, if you just consider adults, working adults with disabilities, they are the market of $490 billion. It is a fact, and this is after tax in disposable income that they can spend. So if you are not making your product accessible, it's like you are losing this segment. You are losing this many customers and their extended families as well. And more than that, from a human angle, I would say there is a very high chance that everyone will face disability at one point of time in all of our lives. So I think it's the very, very indicative moment that we all have to come forward, and it's an equal responsibility for everyone to build the ecosystem, accessible ecosystem, for the present generation and the generations to come. And also I feel that policy holders, makers and NGOs have the higher responsibility to fight more to bring more accessible world to us. And coming to DQ's contribution, we have been in the technology field, as I have been saying, and here we have been here for more than 2 decades now. In 2015, we have been contributing in different ways to the accessibility community, and in 2015, we open sourced our accessibility core engine called Xcore, and many companies, including Google and Microsoft, they are leveraging our APIs to make their products more accessible. Apart from that, definitely, I was speaking at the Selenium conference a couple of weeks ago on the free suite of products that DQ is providing, right? I was thinking that if any organizations, and no need to spend a lot of money, even if they use these free products from companies like DQ and put reasonable investment in making their products accessible, I'm very sure that we will reach a reasonable state, at least, if not 100%, at least we will reach a reasonable state in making, building accessible products that will help everyone to live, independently and dignified, in a dignified way. And then apart from this contribution, we have been giving actually DQ University courses for free, for all persons with disabilities for lifetime, and to promote the education and education and digital accessibility. So I would urge all the NGOs to push students with disabilities to go through these curriculums and make themselves aware of the digital tools and technologies, and get more easy way to find more good jobs, basically based on the digital platforms. So given that, I would really say that this is the moment, right? This is accessibility has never been more important than right now. If we don't wake up now, I think we are not we are not. I would personally feel that we will not be responsible, people and I hope all organizations will realize this and make this as a priority, and be part of a more accessible world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sujashri. I now call upon Mr. R. Hari to speak on the COVID impact of hiring and the post-COVID revival packages. I welcome Mr. Hari now to speak and call upon him to now speak.
Good afternoon to everybody. Am I audible, Mr. Moli?
Yeah, very much, sir.
Yeah. Okay. It's a very nice topic, which is the point was given to me, is about hiring. And before I start, let me just briefly tell me about Lemon Tree. I worked with Lemon Tree for almost close to 14 years, and just retired in the month of June 2020. So when this pandemic was affected in India, I was working with the company, and as part of HR strategies, we are very particular in hiring people with various type of disabilities, and also hire people hailing from below poverty line segment. The D&I is integral part of Lemon Tree. Though I have retired from Lemon Tree, still it is my client. For sake, I do some projects for Lemon Tree. So all the thing which I gained and what I've been doing in this space the past 10 years is and courtesy Lemon Tree. And as Pradnya of Accenture said, it starts from the top actually. Our chairman is very passionate in this space, and I took it as an opportunity to lead this initiative for the company. And currently we have around 50 hotels across India and abroad. And this is something which is there. It's there in the DNA of Lemon Tree people. And this is how we started. When we started with one type of disability, that is in the year 2007, that was the first time in the year, I think, 2008, I was in touch with Dr. Agarwal, and we started hiring. First is people with speech and hearing impaired, and then moved on to people with locomotor disabilities. And then we have, so far, we covered around 8 type of disabilities, which include people with cognitive impairment. So, so about this hiring, I have divided into 3 scenarios. Basically, scenario 1 is what happened in the March, April, when this COVID-19 has eclipsed the whole nation. And then what is the current situation? And the third one is what is the future we have to do for empowering people with different type of disabilities. It's rightly said that when this in March, April, when this is because of this COVID-19, the whole operation has been hampered. The first thing what any corporate for that matter is to freeze the hiring totally and look out the ways and means to reduce and minimize the wage cost. As far as work from home is concerned, there is very little scope for hospitality industry. Maybe the people like us who's working for the corporate, so we have the comfort of working from home. But otherwise, when you talk about the operational thing, so they have to be there in the hotels. We need hands to work. So when this happened, there was a forced shutdown for all the hotels, and there are a lot of restrictions. All these things happen. The first thing what we have done is we have established contact with all, employees with various type of disabilities. They constitute around 20 to 25% of our manning totally. So that to make them to understand that is a compelling situation, and the one thing we have communicated to them was job is secured, and no need to get panic. Once the situation has become normal, they'll be rejoining or they will continue. It's a kind of a forced sabbatical, and this is how it happened. And when people, they work for limited hours, and also people, they migrated out of Delhi or various places to go back to the native place. The only thing which has been done is to establish contact with them, so that to make them to ensure that the job is safe, and whenever the situation become normal, they can come and join. And the second thing is about scenario number 2, that is the current state. Actually, there are some unlock system is there in place. A partial operation is going on with skeleton strength and limited work, and with new normal, with full pay, and limited operations, and very limited staff. People avoid breaks in turn. See, we divided the group into 2, 3, and it includes people with and without disabilities. And there is no discrimination in this aspect, because as far as Lemon Tree is concerned, it's a kind of a business strategy. Okay, so there is no kind of, charity involved in that. People, they join, we skill them, we train them, and they deliver. So it is even now, it is not a total recall of all the employees, those who work with Lemon Tree. Now, my colleagues are monitoring that, and 30 to 40% of the people are already migrated workforce, those who have gone to the native places. They are yet to come back to their work locations. So it is kind of an ongoing process. And the third scenario is like what to do next, actually. One thing which we have know now is a new kind of a normal in place. Like that's what I'm just thinking. What the partners, all the partners, when they have preparing kids for employment with the hospitality sector, basically there are certain prerequisites. The partners to sensitize the PWD's job seekers about the industry specific. So if you talk about Lemon Tree Hotel, there are certain SOPs are already designed, or even FHRI has also designed some new normal conditions. If they are being sensitized to certain extent, then it will be easy for the employers to hire them. And second thing is to consider the nature of disability is also another big challenge. Disability, which always the job roles. If you talk about speech and hearing impact, which can be considered at the priority for a rehiring, because there is no much risk. The risk is very low. When you talk about cognitive impairment people, there's a high risk is there. So these areas, it is something which we have to focus and consider that their risk is zero whenever they are coming for work. And another thing is the PWD's employees may or may not return to work. And another good thing is that's coming across my mind is the NAP scheme, which has been introduced by Government of India. That is the cost-effective option. When you want to hire people with disabilities, they can also fall under National Apprenticeship Program promotion scheme. So that is something which is driven by NSDC. What is the win-win situation is it's people will be joining as a trainee and for defined months, say like 15 to 16 months. As far as the employees are concerned, you pay the stipend and train them, and also every quarter 25% of the stipend will be reimbursed to the employers. So this is something which when you go for post-COVID situations, people can look into that. And another thing is sensitize the parents of the employees, PWD employees, about they'll be always having a fear in their mind. What happened to my watch if they are going to the industry? What are the kind of measures that corporates has been implemented to ensure against COVID? So these are the things where technology can play a role. The suggestion is that we can install extra cameras in the workplace and then see how the process has been handled and how it has been delivered with limited or less contact. And the thing is, priority can be given to people, those who are staying close to the hotels, so that, logistic cannot be any issue. And parents has to be, we have to connect with the parents of the people with disabilities, those who are outside the work locations, and tell them that because of the unlock, the companies are ready and the hotels are ready, they can come and join us. These are the 2-3 things which has come across my mind. And when we introduce these kind of measures as strategies, when you hire PWD, then it can be a win-win situation. I'm open for any questions from the panelists and audience, please.
Thank you, Mr. Hari. I now call upon our the fifth speaker for today, that is Mohammad Asif Iqbal, to give his perspective on the role of technology. Mohammad Asif Iqbal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
Sorry. Am I audible and am I visible?
Yeah, you're audible and visible too.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Murli. For those of you who doesn't know me, my name is Asif, and I cannot see. I lost my eyesight at the age of 16 years old, but was very fortunate to do my primary, secondary education in the United States, and did my rest of my education in India. So COVID-19, in fact, what all of you has discussed, has been indeed a trying times and a challenging times. Well, this time it actually realized me that I actually am blind. Let me try to share the story. When we had a lockdown, I had a groceries which would last me for a week. I lived with my wife, who's not so tech savvy, and with my 9-year-old daughter. When the week was over, the panic struck me, and I just thought, there is technology which will help me to solve this problem. Sadly, when I used BigBasket, I couldn't use it because they did not integrate inclusion in that digital accessibility what Sujay talked about, which would enable people like me who cannot see, use it with the help of a screen reader with ease. I again tried Grofers, but sadly it failed. I tried my neighborhood online store called Spencer's, failed. Well, I didn't know what to do, but then I approached my neighbors and who were happily agreed to get my food and essential items. Like all of us, we were not certain when the COVID-19 or a lockdown would break down, or would lockdown would be closed and normalcy be. I knew deep in my heart that this solution was not going to be sustainable in the long term. I called Big Bazaar Baskets, who was at least about 6 kilometers away from my neighborhood. And they delivered, but due to some shortage of issue, they only delivered about 60% of what I required. Well, it did get me by for some little bit. Then I started thinking hard. There is a store which is about 1 kilometer away, which is called More. And coincidentally, I recall meeting the CEO of More, Mr. Mohit Khampani, on a flight to Mumbai from Kolkata during one of my PwC engagements. I decided, and I have a habit of striking in conversation with anyone and everyone. My passion is to meet people and learn from their experiences. I struck a conversation with him. We exchanged business cards about 6 months prior to the lockdown. And then I recall, I retrieved that business cards and I called him up. I attempted to call him up at least 3 times, but he must be busy. He did not take my call. I sent him a text message and I got a phone call. I explained him the entire ordeal of mine, and I knew that More did not have a home delivery at that time. But he said, Asif, don't worry, we will deliver food and essential items to your doorstep. Fortunately, we also had a friend who was experiencing the same, but she was also on a wheelchair, Sriladi. And he has agreed to deliver, and she lived almost next door to More. But again, our driver was not coming, the household work maid was not coming. So virtually, it was a standstill. So we got our groceries. Thankfully, one problem is solved. The other challenge was that I was running out of cash. I didn't feel comfortable in sharing my PIN and asking someone to withdraw cash out of the ATM, knowing fully well that it is not the best practices. Well, I floated a message on our society's WhatsApp group, and I was very, very happy. We got response from 4 to 6 people offering me to take to the ATM. Yes, I did go to the ATM and withdraw money, of course, because that's not the normal ATM which I was used to. The third thing that I wish to again narrate is, I don't know, for most of you, I also run. I participate in marathons. I've done 10 kilometers. And I used to run earlier with holding people's hand because as I'm blind. But with the years gone by and with great trainers, now I run independently and just only on verbal guidance. There is a fellow runner running to my right and running to my left, or sometimes only running to my right, and they would issue a verbal instruction: road ahead, path, rough path, bad patch, speed bump, slight right, slight left, and I would navigate the entire 10 kilometers or 6 kilometers, whatever I'm going. So this year, I'm actually preparing for 21 kilometers. The challenge was the community gym was closed. The friends could not join you. The person who I was training with, I could not join me for my run. What do I do? And then we have a whole challenge of lethargic. Every day I would think, okay, tomorrow I will start, doing sit-ups and push-ups and do spot jogging. But sadly, tomorrow never came because, okay, lethargic would overpower. It became my number one enemy. Fortunately, then I decided we have to make the most out of the limited resources we have. And then I decided that I will do a workout in my balcony. And friends, as COVID-19 actually made us realize one thing, that health is a top priority for each one of us. Whether we are able, disabled, whether Americans or Indians, it's irrelevant. It's globally, health has become a top priority for all of us. So I downloaded great books on Kindles. I would listen to great YouTube, which I liked, and I would do 4 to 5 kilometers spot jogging, and of course doing regulars. But in the process, I know I have spoken to many of my friends. They've actually gained weight during lockdown, but I have managed to lose at least 11 kgs in the last 6 months. Yes, we, like Sujashri mentioned, that it is a business imperative. The technology needs to be integrated. Technology needs to be for everyone, not because it is the right thing to do, not because we have to do it out of pity or out of sympathy. It just makes business sense. Friends, I belong to land of Swami Vivekananda, and he said once, the worst thing in the world is not to lose your eyesight, but to lose your inner vision. Friends, who are my disabled brothers and sisters, ignite your inner vision to come up with a solution of any kind, whether it is personal, professional, work towards it in achieving solutions. We cannot afford to be complacent. We cannot afford to just complain. We have to be a part of the solutions. To the employers and the societies, can we ignite our inner vision to be inclusive in our design of products and services? Because it makes business sense. Thank you. Jai Hind. Over to you, Mr. Murdedi.
Thank you, Asif Iqbal. I think that was a really inspiring address you made. Now I think we have completed the perspectives from all the 5 speakers. I will now open the floor for questions from the audience, and I have 1 or 2 questions which have been forwarded to me. So let me ask these questions of our panelists. So basically the live questions that I have received is, what all new opportunities can be explored for our PWDs post-COVID? What are post-COVID revival packages for the PWDs? The next question that I have is, corporates have framed diversity and inclusion policy, but lack of sensitization is seen among employees. What initiatives have been taken to address this challenge? So basically, I think we had one common question as to, what's happening in terms of jobs in terms of your own company. So we can add that question also to this and answer that. So could I request, Mr. Hari to, take the first question on what all new opportunities can be explored for our PWDs post-COVID, and what are post-COVID revival packages?
Okay, it's a good question. Post-COVID, it can be done in a very phased manner, actually. There is something like disability against job role, disability and job mapping. So this mechanism is there already in place. We know in which department what the nature of disabled people can be employed. So if that's there in place, of course, it's easy to approach the NGO partner and give the job description and all the details, share with them, and they can prepare the people for the industry and for the particular department. The thing is, the post-COVID situation, it is yet to come. Actually, we don't know. It is not in our hand. Actually, when there is something which has been. We have been talking about the vaccine, and the vaccine, when it has to be introduced and how it is going to be scaled up. These are all the questions in our mind, which nobody is having answers to that. What we can look into that, because of the unlock which has been announced by the government, we can identify certain specific jobs where the risk is either less or low. So keeping that in mind, what kind of disability can be accommodate that? If we can identify that first, then we can identify the job roles, and then we can what do you call, approach the NGO partners like Sarthak, tell the requirement. Uh, and what I can add in this space is even the parents or the well-wishers of these disabled people, if they have any concern in their mind, how it is happening in the hotel industry, to be totally sensitized, and if it is the COVID-19, what are the measures they have taken. So that's why that if we have in the use of technology, when we put some extra cameras in the process line, and this can be viewed by the parents and also the well-wishers, and they can visit the hotel and talk to the respective HR and hotels and see, yeah, okay, this all been done. If this particular job is for the particular type of disability, then the risk will be nil. For example, I can give you some example. If you talk about hotel industry, if you talk about housekeeping and laundry, speech and hearing impaired people, it's a kind of repeat nature of work. There is no need for any kind of intervention once you train them, skill them, and give them free hand, the productivity level will be definitely for each shift, it will be more than 10-15%. So those job roles we have to identify. And also another job role which is there for a carpenter, if he's a speech and hearing impaired, for us it's a noise pollution, but for him it's advantage. So when you have to exhibit a message what we have done inside the premises to tackle the COVID situation, because which is something very very difficult to explain. The people should come and see and understand, yes, this particular hotel is definitely has done something, so there is the chances of getting infected is very less or limited. Then only the parents will come forward to send their kids for the job.
Okay. Sir,
Identifying the role is important, and then sensitizing the individual and the parents is important, and the role of the NGO is also important.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I just also wanted to ask you one more, short question, and that's with regard to, what kind of outlook are you seeing from companies during this lockdown, and is there any positive trend that is visible? And
see, it's like of a possible trend. It has to be in action actually, because we say that your job is secured, but how many people have come back for work? If you talk about some hotels in Delhi, where Lemon Tree is having 4 or 5 units, earlier 15 to 16% of the total manning. So if you slice the manning, if there's 100 people, there'll be 50 people working. Out of these people, 50 people, it's only around 5 to 10% they can focus actually. So those kids also they have to stay close to the hotel, and the parents should take responsibility when the people check out after the working hours, how they are going to reach the home, the current scenario. These things has to be ensured. When these 5 things are ensured, then already people are working actually, because they already proved they can work, but hotels are ready, if the parents are ready, and the NGO has to play a vital role, that these are the workplace which can be ensured. There's no need to worry about their safety and security. So it is happening, but not much. It's happening slowly. That's all I can say.
Okay. So the other question I would like to pose this to, Pragya Desai. What all new opportunities can be explored? Corporates have framed diversity and inclusion policy, but still lack the sensitization that is among the employees. What initiatives have been taken to address this change? Because I remember you said that you don't plan for diversity because it is part of your talent, and how you actually take it forward in Accenture is that they are treated on par with other talent. Could you kindly throw some light on this question?
Sure. Sorry, just to understand, the question is, how do we sensitize our teams.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so this is also an ongoing program within Accenture, and this is something we do across the board. We have a very detailed and exhaustive training programs where the direct supervisors, the teams that have a PWD colleague as part of the team, go through our sensitization program in terms of not just in terms of how we accommodate and make it conducive and inclusive, but also on the attitudinal issues and elements that will, comprise of the overall giving the right opportunities and ensuring that the person is part of inducted appropriately. So these trainings are done. We also do encourage our teams at large to, take this particular period of pandemic. We launched a lot of programs which were encouraging our teams to, learn sign languages, learn certain softwares that could help them rather than just teaching it. So there is no demarcation between the PWD and the non-PWD resources. We make it common so that they are aware of the challenges up front.
Okay, so those were the two questions that I had, and I think we also addressed the other common question. Mr. Hari addressed that particular question, and so basically, I think I would probably now switch to the last part of the
2:03 p.m. 2:03 p.m. 5 o'clock 6 p.m. Webex 5 o'clock 6 p.m. Webex meeting. 5 o'clock 6 p.m. Webex meeting. Due date. 5 o'clock 6 p.m. Webex meeting. Due date.
There is one more question. I think is there any way that there is a connection made between interview and talent team, or directly to the candidate for work opportunities? How can this barrier be reduced and more jobs be made available at MNC, and also permanent work from home, if possible, if more awareness about jobs? I think this is a particular comment. Okay, so it's not a question. So basically, I think I will now move to, my closing remarks. So I think first of all, I would like to begin by thanking all the erudite and eminent panelists who have shared their perspectives through this last 1 hour about this particular inclusivity. We've had experience sharing. We've had, personal experience of Mr. Mohammad Asif Iqbal, which is itself a very inspiring thing that we could see. So thanks in, a very large measure to all of you to having addressed this issue from various angles. And probably, I think, personally, I am very enriched by having moderated this particular discussion. We heard different perspectives. First of all, we heard best practices from, in a consulting organization from Pradnya Desai. Then we had initiatives from CII, from Sarbani, again, a very, very interesting set of, topics that she addressed, like IBDN, and, how she has been, how the CII is working with various organizations and NGOs in order to create a more, inclusive work, ecosystem. Then, of course, we had the accessibility evangelism that, Sujeshri spoke about. And then we had, of course, very good understanding about, how the HR looks at it, how we need to look at various jobs and so on. And finally, of course, we had Mohammad Asif Iqbal himself speaking about, how, as a person who is differently abled, he has harnessed technology in order to resolve issues. So basically, I think I think I would like to make one particular point. One is that I think COVID-19 has become the great leveler. Whether you're able or unable or differently abled, at the end of the day, all of us have been grounded. It's a black swan event in the lives of everybody in this world. It has impacted people's lives. It has impacted economies. It has touched every aspect of, the human function, and it has challenged every aspect of conventional human, functioning. And that is, I think, a very, very important aspect to be kept in mind. How we gear up to the challenge and how we come out of this particular, challenge is, of course, up to the human race. So The other issue that is coming up, which I see as a very, very big important event, is first of all, I think in a country like India, the job market is a huge challenge in terms of the fact that it is a challenging fact for even
हो जाएगा
able-bodied people. So therefore, the other thing that we need to be very, very careful about is the fact that we need to create an inclusive and a diversity tolerant environment for the differently able. And that is another challenge which is going to face us, because I think over a period of time, I think a lot more people will need to be accommodated. A lot more people will need to get into the workplace as the time goes on, once we have some kind of a mitigation for the COVID that is now raging as a pandemic all over the world. So overall, I think it was a very fine discussion. We also had some very good questions from the audience. And I would like to, further now express my very sincere thanks to the American Center. I would like to thank Sarthak for, first of all, setting this event. And of course, our highly enthusiastic and efficient, back-end coordinator, Bhavna Malhotra, who has been, a great source of help and assistance as we went through this particular program. So thanks, everybody. And I think we had a very good discussion. Thank you.